I love Palworld so much. My friends and I have been pouring hours into this game, just catching pals and running around the beautiful overworld, spending all day hunting and building among these mighty mountains and verdant meadows. The game has been nothing short of a great experience overall, but I think we've all started to notice the darker undertones that are just hidden in plain sight, or sometimes just not hidden at all. So I guess they can't eat meat. Oh, never mind, what the fuck? That's dark as hell! When you catch a pal, jump pussy, you won't! You're literally just poaching animals. Oh, we caught our first Palmon! When you put them to work, you're exploiting their captivity to capitalize on their labor. When you don't need them anymore, just remember, this is not Pokemon and these are not your friends. Guess what? Kebabs are back on the menu, boys. Look at him happily watching while I cook his friends. He's probably sniffing at the air right now going, huh, it's kind of familiar. This is his prison and his reality. Don't let that smile fool you. He is definitely oppressed. You can also catch NPCs the same way you catch pals, by the way. And they become your pal when you catch them. You can butcher your pals for meat. Yeah, you see where I'm going with this, right? Yep, it's not cannibalism, it's cannibalism. But in all the pal chopping and deforestation and strip mining and animal poaching, there was always one question I had about the game. What happened? I haven't really found any lore snippets in my time playing, and I've heard from others that the lore is pretty thin right now anyway. Whatever it is, it would need to keep up with what you can already do in-game. Now you might ask, why is the lore even important? Lore is the justification for the game's setting and story, and this is true of just about any video game you can think of. If the game lore is long and dark, it definitely has a hard world to boot. But I am confident that Palworld's lore will at least match the gameplay, and there's a big reason why. And it's a reason that was once banned in Australia.
Palworld is actually originally inspired by Rimworld. We started thinking from the point of how to get the colony theme aspect of Rimworld a little more interesting in 3D world.
Ah, Rimworld. I know many of you probably have no idea what Rimworld is. Really, I find the best way to explain it to people is just to be as blunt as possible. So let's start off with a couple of quick facts about the game. Rimworld is well known for quirky little things like cannibalism, child soldiers, organ harvesting, and mistreating war prisoners, being absurdly addicting. They even both start the same. You fend for yourself after landing in a strange place with nothing and need to use your resourcefulness and a bit of moral ambiguity to ensure your survival. A big difference between Palworld and Rimworld is while Palworld is largely driven by the player, Rimworld is driven by an AI storyteller that throws events at the player, both good and bad, to generate the highs and lows of a story. One second, you're peacefully building homes and hospitals for your downtrodden colonists. The next second, the storyteller sends roving gangs of man-eating animals to welcome you to the neighborhood. On top of that, he's also given half your colony influenza. So have fun with that, champ. In Palworld, you're the force of nature enslaving the local fauna for your own gain. In Rimworld, you're part of the local fauna, and you are not at the top of this food chain. Every colonist or pawn is different, with different areas of expertise and different personalities. Pawns do like some pawns better than others, and their family history is tracked by the game. Research also plays a big role in the game since it's survival-based. Your pawn's research works towards unlocking new buildings, technologies, and categories of weapon. I can grow children in a vat. That is crazy, dude. And if my older and wounded pawns need an organ transplant, I simply ask the prisoners nicely if they'd like to donate one of their organs. Yeah, you're not exactly catching them as pal spheres, but the process is the same nonetheless. Injure a pawn to such a degree that he or she is incapacitated and can't fight your pawns off when they go to capture him. Then, give him some time in your jailhouse where you have several options to choose from, including farming his blood for your vampire folk. Yeah, that's right, this game has vampires. However, if you're feeling merciful, you can work towards recruiting him into your colony and putting him to work. Never to know freedom again. It's obvious why the game was banned in Australia for a moment in time. It's pretty much a psycho dictator simulator, right? Well, that's where Randy comes in. Randy's one of the storytellers, an AI that you technically play against. The AI storyteller has picked this particular cell as your personal hell. This is Randy's world. You're just living in it, buddy. Get used to it. Remember what I said about setting earlier in the video? That very much applies to Rimworld as well. The lore, including the tone it sets, lends credence to the horrible things you can do for arguably good reasons. It's an uncaring world far from the prying eyes of any sort of centralized authority. The strong thrive, and the weak live under thumb. Good thing it's just a video game, huh? Instead of being a Pokemon ripoff, I'm more inclined to believe Palworld's actually Rimworld fanfiction. The CEO clearly mentions it as an inspiration, and if you pay attention, you'll notice something about Palworld. It's a colony sim first. All the other mechanics are just in service to that fact. Even catching monsters. Everything requires you to build. Pals make building faster, and they provide resources for both building and survival. Your base gets raided, so you need to bolster your defenses, and to do that, you have to build. You need to eat eventually, and food is a big part of any resource management game. Your pals will fight and die protecting the colony, but getting KO'd in combat could mean one less worker or your best fighter going down. For a game like this, the setting and tone are paramount to justify the harsher elements, just like they are for Rimworld. I've put a lot of emphasis onto the setting here for a reason. A bad or mismatched setting can betray a good story just as fast as a sweet baby writer could betray Kevin Conroy's memory. And Palworld's setting is just as dark, including the organ harvesting. For all its beautiful vistas, there's something sinister beneath the surface. Nowhere is this clearer and more accessible than the entries in the Paldeck. So you can all probably guess what a Paldeck is. You're probably thinking, oh, it's just this game's version of a Pokédex. And you'd be correct. I took the liberty of reading every single Paldeck entry. Out of 133 pals, over half of them make some reference to dying, death. Sometimes, the death and dying are even accidental and pal on human. There's even a pal named Depresso, which is a joke I've been making at Starbucks for years that none of the baristas have ever laughed at. It's with these Paldeck entries we can start to piece together a picture of the history of the Palpagos Islands, including the relationship between pal and human. Vomit those seeds everywhere, buddy. Speaking of that relationship, let's just get Lavander out of the way. Lavander is an anthropomorphic pal and the game's easiest furry bait. It is number 69 in the Paldeck, because of course it is. And its Paldeck entry can be best described as uncomfortable for most of you. I don't think I need to elaborate too much on this one. Listen, I want to get monetized on YouTube, so I'm just going to stop myself here and probably just move to the next point. Do you like dogs? I love dogs. You like dogs too? Perfect. This game has a dog. Guess what? This dog hates you. Though the connection has long since faded, Direhowl once hunted alongside humans. Staying with the theme of furry animals, Direhowl is a pal whose text makes direct reference to having hunted with humans ages ago. However, it also adds that this connection was broken long ago, and they're just as likely to chew your face off today. By contrast, there are other pals who have a history of working with humans. Take Lifmunk, whose ability is to sit on your shoulders with a machine gun. Intelligent as a 5 to 7 year old child, makes a wonderful partner, but there have been more than a few cases where they've killed their master after learning to use their weapons. These deaths can probably be attributed to being accidental. After all, Lifmunk is literally shooting around your head. If you get 100 Lifmunks in a room shooting from people's shoulders, at least 2 of them are going to cause accidental deaths. Yeah, it's kind of your fault for forcing this cute little critter to kill on your behalf anyway. Although I guess fighting for some random ape who washed up a couple days ago isn't really as bad as the fate it could have with a Nitewing though. Considering Nitewing's Paldeck entry describes it as raising, caring for, and nurturing baby pals it carries away. Then once those babies are fattened up, Nitewing does what any reasonable adoptive parent does. It hunts its child for food. Now yeah, this is all pretty grim, but it's not all doom and gloom. There are some entries that err more on the side of being morbidly comical, like Quivern being a well-documented sleeping buddy that is 100% capable and proven to sometimes smother its owner in their sleep. By complete accident, of course. Now there are plenty more Paldeck entries I can recite that allude to some sort of implied danger, definitely not befitting a children's monster collecting game, but you get the picture. Palworld has teeth, edge, and grit that Pokemon will simply never have. These deck entries are good enough for us to start painting a picture of the history behind the setting. Please keep in mind that everything from here on out is complete conjecture. None of it is verified. This could very well get proven wrong by future updates, but for the moment, let's have some fun and put our heads to use. There are 2 circumstances the lore makes possible. The Palpagos Islands is a long-forgotten archipelago where humankind once lived, but at some point, they left. Now we can surmise this due to the references made in several entries in the Paldeck, outlining flutes made from Vanworm's exoskeleton in ages past, to Direhowls having once been domesticated, only to forget that connection entirely. I want to use that last point to draw a parallel to our world. Given the history of the dog in our world, coupled with hunting being a necessity in Palworld, a hunting partner would have had long-staying power in any civilization on the island chain, and thus they never would have lost their instinct for domestication. This is not the case in the Palpagos Islands, of course. The second thing it implies is that the re-entry of humans to the islands is actually fairly recent, but not entirely brand new. According to other entries, pals are studied by a dedicated school of science. The reintroduction of humanity to pals has also had ill consequences for some creatures being affected by heavy pollution, such as kelpsie, or overhunting, such as azarobe. Human civilization is found only in sparse pockets throughout the island, and it's not always friendly, and it's not ever at the top of the food chain. There is also a criminal faction with heavy interest in pals, lending to the fact that there is no central authority present on the islands. Usually, where there's people, law and order will follow. Will we get more lore eventually? There's a good chance. Palworld is not disappearing anytime soon. It sold 19 million copies within the first 2 weeks of being out. Right now, the game is experiencing the same sort of passion that has made indie darlings of the past into household titles. So it would be absolutely foolish for the Palworld devs to decide that lore just isn't important. In closing, Palworld is not Pokemon. It is a harsh, natural reality that poses as much danger to humans as humans would pose to pals. It is Rimworld with a Fortnite aesthetic and an arc building system. And this is why Palworld is so popular. It feels more appropriate for a 20-something who grew up playing Pokemon to move into a slightly more mature setting with many of the same fixings. Not that there's anything wrong with playing Pokemon in your 20s and 30s or whatever, but you can't deny that you're simply not the target demographic, and that's just the fact. Alright, looks like we're making food out of these guys. You know, I felt bad doing this to the first one. I don't feel bad about it anymore. Killing them's kind of fun. Thank you so much for watching. If you've stuck around this long, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. If we can make that happen, I'll be playing Redfall live on Twitch until I finish the game. That's right, no sleep, all play, all game, until it's done. And if you watched my last video, you'll know how much I really, really don't want to play it again. But I'm willing to do it for you because you're worth it. So if you'd like to contribute to the suffering of a 20-something-year-old gamer, now's your time to shine. Until next time, take care, brush your hair. I'm Snail, and I'm out of here. Peace.